best. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the City of Soledad special meeting for districting. Today is Tuesday, May 25th, 2023, 6:01 p.m. For anybody wanting to join on Zoom, you can find the link on the agenda, or the meeting ID is 830-2218-3225. Your committee members are Irvin Ortiz, Fernando Ansaldo Sanchez, Member Sandy Fuerte, Fred Ledesma, and Lupita Arroyo. We will now call the order on a roll call.
Go ahead.
Irvin Ortiz. Here. Fernando Ansaldo Sanchez.
Here.
Sandy Fuerte. Fred Ledesma.
I'm here.
Lupita Arroyo. Lupita Arroyo? Yeah.
What's that?
Oh, Lupita Arroyo. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Don't see Sandy's on Zoom. Oh, Sandy's on Zoom.
Oh, Sandy's on?
Yes, she is.
Is she allowed to be on Zoom?
I don't believe so.
Right.
But we can check with Mike Rodriguez. Is he on Zoom?
Mike Rodriguez is on Zoom. Let me just, I can look at him.
Go ahead and ask him.
Mike, given the new. Oh.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Okay, I'm sorry. So what was your question?
Just given the code, we have one committee member that is on Zoom. Is that still allowable, or do they have to be present?
No, they have to be present, or we have to know in advance and post on the agenda. So
Understood. So given though,
they can continue to, obviously they can continue to watch the meeting, and they can comment at the meeting, but they can't participate as a member of the committee if they're not actually present.
sounds good. So given that ordinance, then Sandy Fuerte will be marked as absent.
Okay.
Cool. Now we shall open it up to public comments for any item not on the agenda. We shall open it up to see if there are any members on Zoom.
There are none.
There are none. Seeing none there, seeing no members in the public, we will now close the public comment period. We shall move on to introductions by staff and committee members. Ooh. Okay, so my name is Jesus Valenzuela. I am the Community Engagement Manager for the City of Soledad. I've been here supporting Mike Rodriguez and the council on the districting process. So I'll be supporting for a little bit, but after this, we will nominate a chair and a vice chair for this meeting and then the meeting afterward. So at this point, then we will open it up for nominations for a chair and a vice chair for the districting committee.
Aren't we introducing ourselves first?
Oh, yeah, sorry about that.
I'm like,
You can't tell, it's my first time doing this.
Yeah, it's his first time. So.
Yes. So I'll start on the right.
Hello, everyone. I'm Elizabeth Arroyo. I am been a long-term resident of Soledad. I was born. I say I'm born in Salinas because Soledad does not have a hospital. I'm fully raised here in Soledad, and it's a pleasure to be here.
My name is Fernando Ansaldo Sanchez. I am also a lifelong resident of Soledad. I went to Soledad High School, UC Santa Cruz for my bachelor's, San Diego State for my master's, currently work at San Jose State. I'm also vice chair of the Soledad GPAC, and I am also a member of a strategic planning committee for San Jose State as a staff member.
Oh, cool. That's interesting. My name is Fred Ledesma. Like the two of them, I always say I was born here, but I'm like you, Lupita. I was born in Salinas, but I've been here my whole life, 64, soon to be 65 years. I served on and off here. I've done a whole lot of things. You know, I've been in business here in Soledad since I was 21. I started an insurance business at the age of 21, and my family's been here since 1933. My father was born in Livermore, California. It was kind of interesting. I saw a thing the other day on the 14th Amendment, how a lot of gente mexicana were deported. My father was deported in 1933, even though he's an American citizen. So that family has a long history, and they came here to Soledad. They ended here. They were migrant farm workers. The car broke down. And almost 100 years later, my family is still here in Soledad, so I am proud to be a Soledadian, so thank you.
Hi guys, my name is Irvin Pisano Ortiz. I've been a longtime resident here in Solid, attended all the schools here. I'm a local business owner, been in business since I was 20 years old. Been part of a lot of different organizations here in Solid, like the Leukemia Lymphoma Society. I've attended different events. I'm here to help you guys out.
All right,
Well, thank you, everybody. So now we will open it up for nominations for a chair and a vice chair. We'll start with the chair, just like any other nominations. It'll start with nomination and a second, and then it will move on to a vote. So can we get a nomination for it?
I would nominate Lupita. The fact that she's female, she's been here for a lot of years, and I think that I don't know her that well, but I think that she would be easy to be the chair here, if she would accept that.
I'll second that.
We have a first nomination and a second. Roll for vote. Does that have to be roll call or?
Do
you have to?
you-
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
I accept.
I did.
Okay.
She accepts the nomination.
Do we do roll call for this? No. Because no one is attending elsewhere.
Oh,
Right.
yeah.
So, does everybody, vote yes for
All in
that?
favor?
Yes.
Yeah.
You two are?
Yeah.
Okay.
Very good. Both unanimous. Now we will open it up for nominations for a vice chair.
I nominate Fernando.
Nomination for Fernando as vice chair. Do we have a second?
Second, third,
Or seconds?
Michael.
Sorry, Mike, did you have something? I think you just unmuted.
What? Oh, yeah, yeah,
Oh.
I'm sorry. Didn't mean to interrupt the proceedings.
Okay.
Okay.
Sorry. All in favor?
I accept and I.
Any opposed? Vote. All right, at this point, then I shall pass on the proceeding to you, Lupita, as the chair. And then you can just follow the agenda. We'll move on to the presentation.
Okay. So, introductions, to the basic of this. So I just read the following item?
Yes.
Okay, so introduction to the basics of description. So consultant presentation, national general practice or corporation.
Okay, well, I guess I should at least be in front of you, right? I don't know,
Be
is my
helpful.
phone on?
No, you don't need to, it's a small one.
Oh, right.
Just,
Beautiful,
Well-
so I know some of you have seen this presentation before, you're totally up to speed on this. Since this is a small group, please feel free to interrupt me with your questions.
Okay.
Okay, I think that when it's a small group,
I have a logistics question.
yeah,
This is still broadcast on Facebook, right?
that's correct.
I think we should still use the microphone just in case people want to
The
still watch.
microphone is actually.
The
in
microphone
in the middle?
there.
Got it. Okay, never mind that.
Speak, you'll.
Just wanted to.
Well-
be accessible.
be right here.
Yeah, just because I'm a little hard of hearing sometimes, so
Yeah, no, that's very mindful.
thanks, sorry.
Okay. Here we are, you all know that this districting process is part of a change that's being made to the city council electoral system. And this is in response to a letter received by the city challenging and threatening litigation. And the reason that this is possible is because of the California Voting Rights Act, which really prioritizes and encourages district-based elections. And this law has been around for about 20 years now, and we have seen every single county in the state of California make the change to district-based elections. Many cities. Oh, hi, you're just in time. I'm Kristen. I should probably have introduced myself, I guess. I am the demographer consulting with the city on this process. My main purview is assisting with the drawing of the maps and the demographic information. And so I've just started with some background on why we're here. And of course, just to say that Soledad is not alone. There are many, many other cities of all sizes that are receiving letters and are making this change. And ultimately, it does seem to be a wise decision to avoid potentially costly litigation. We have seen millions and millions of dollars in settlements in some of these cases. So the process that's required for districting is set forth in California Elections Code, and there are 5 public hearings required prior to the adoption of a new map of city council districts. And the role of the advisory committee is to review the draft maps. You can request new maps drawn by your consultant, and ultimately your role is to recommend to the city council what course of action they should take, right? And what's unique about Soledad is that we have on the table 4 district and 5 district maps. And the council can adopt a 4 district or a 5 district.
I have a question about that. You said it's a unique situation. Is that not common in other cities? Or?
We have seen this in other cities, but it's not super common to have that option on the table. I will say I worked with a very small town in Northern California, Woodside, and they originally had a town council, I think, of 9 members. And when they switched to districts, and this is a town of 5,000 people. Yeah, because they're up in San Jose. They reduced that number down to 7 because they were worried, are we going to even find people to run? So,
so what's the uncommon, the 4 district or the 5 district?
For
Or like
so just making the change at this time of districting. I also worked with San Bruno, and they had a similar structure to Soledad. But they were actually going to go to voters with a ballot measure to change from 4 to 5 districts, right? But you don't have to do that here. So it is what I mean uncommon is that you actually, before the council and before your committee, there's really 2 decisions to be made, right? It's not just where are the boundaries, it's actually how many districts and then where are those district boundaries, right?
So just to clarify, but we are not gonna make that decision, the council.
No. However, the hope for an advisory committee is that you do come to consensus around some sort of recommendation.
Okay.
And it's, as far as I have read in the resolution, and Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, the committee can choose 1 map to recommend. The committee could choose 1 4 district map and 1 5 district map. The committee, could recommend a number of maps, right? But the ideal is that you're going to recommend at least 1 map.
Okay.
That's
and that you'll
correct.
have consensus on that recommendation. So as we make this transition, it's a rollout. So all of the city council districts do not transition from at-large to by district all at once, right? So there is a rollout. That rollout starts in 2024, okay? And of course, the number of districts that will be up for election will depend on the number of districts that are adopted. So as far as the required hearings, we've already completed 3 public hearings, but we do need to have 2 more public hearings on draft maps. So that will be before city council. And as I understand, those will be scheduled for after the committee has made their recommendation. So our calendar is still being fleshed out a little bit, but there will be 2 more hearings at least on maps before the council takes the vote to adopt. So that's the process and the schedule.
I have another question, sorry. For the community mapping workshops, it's just one. Are
So
we
we
able
did-
to advise for a second as an advisory committee or not? Do you know? I don't know if I'm
Did we didn't
successful.
record those, no. So we actually held 2 on that day. Well, we were supposed to hold 2, right? But we only had people show up to 1. You can recommend that or request that, absolutely, but that's not necessarily something I would recommend in the interest of time. I think that as committee members, you are uniquely positioned to go out into the community and you already are connected to the community. So I think if you all have questions about the mapping tools, I'm happy to work one-on-one with any of you to help you get up to speed so that you can make sure that people who want to submit maps know how, right? And I think that's probably the most effective thing to do at this point and efficient.
When's the deadline for the community to bring in for the map?
I would love for us to have a deadline. Ideally, it would be before your next meeting, right? Because at your next meeting, it'd be prudent for you to have all the maps available for you to make a decision on which to recommend. So as you are creating your work plan, I appreciate you bringing that up because having a deadline for the public to submit maps is good. You know better than I do whether you expect more maps to come in. Soledad is not that large of a city. There's not so many ways you can draw boundary lines, which is why an important piece of this is not just getting additional maps, but also getting feedback on the existing ones, because you do have the authority to direct me to make modifications to the draft maps that have already been presented. This demographic information is a citywide snapshot. It's just, I think, always interesting to look at. Of course, you already know you are a 90% Hispanic Latino city, 82% by citizen voting age population. And all of this demographic information does get broken down at the district level. So one way to compare different council boundaries or council maps is not just to compare where the boundary lines are, but to compare this demographic information broken down by district. So all of these existing maps have a demographic report on the back by district, right? So you can see how this information varies. Where are the families that have at least one child under 18? Are they clustered in a certain part of the city? Where are renters versus single family homes? Are there renters? Wow, yeah, 38% of the households, right, are renting. I wouldn't have expected it to be that high. So interesting stuff. In terms of legal requirements, all of the draft maps that we receive from the public, NDC processes, and we will alert you if any of those maps do not meet legal requirements. And the most important legal requirement that we look at is that equal population rule. So we are just looking for each of the council districts to be relatively equal in population size. There is some variance, like 1 to 2%, admissible by the courts, but there is a requirement that we keep those as balanced as possible, right? And we have to use those 2020 census numbers as our count for population. Oh, I think Lupita first, sorry.
I'm wondering if we're able to see if other people have turned in their maps. Let's say that there's like a threshold of like, this is what the maps have been circulating to, so we can provide maybe comments on those maps. Are we able to see their maps?
Yeah, so as far as we know, the only map received from the public is Fernando's, and I will be processing it and presenting it for you at your next meeting. And then if there's any others that come in as well, then those will all be presented to you, posted online, and in the exact same format as the consultant drawn maps. We
Ms.
always,
Fernando, you submitted a map.
I did.
How would you submit a map if we haven't had the presentation though? That's,
They released on the website.
so you already saw it.
Yeah,
prior.
so you can
Oh,
see
okay.
it. They
Because when
like
you
do
said
it.
that, I said, I've never seen the map, so I don't.
yeah,
Right.
well, let
Have
me,
you seen it, Sandy?
I have not, and then I was
let
gonna
me pass
ask,
it, at least pass it around
It
for
was on
you
there?
all.
Oh, okay.
I was gonna ask, cause I
Yeah, 'cause I was
can't
like,
what
I
we're talking
downloaded
about
it on my
as a
iPhone.
reference.
Okay, hold
I
on.
was like, yeah, I used to bet a map, we haven't even seen it.
Oh, sorry. Yes.
Oh, you
There are
have
maps.
those, you have these,
Right,
okay,
so the maps that we have here, okay, that we have in here are back to back, so there's an English map and a Spanish map, and there's not the demographic information on the back,
these are for people to create their own boundaries on.
okay?
Oh,
So if you drew, for instance, on this, then you submit it to Jesus, he sends it to me, and then I turn it into this double-sided PDF with all the data.
Okay,
Does that make sense?
not really, but okay, if that's how you guys do it, because, well, really, I'm just gonna say, to me, it would make sense as an advisory committee to be able to review the data, look who the residents are, be able to divide the
Yes.
map appropriately and
You
fairly
can do
based on the
that. You
data.
can't do that on a one-page paper map,
Uh-huh.
but you can do that on the online mapping tool.
Mhm.
And I'll show you the website in a minute. And I'll show you the online mapping tool because it has exactly what you're asking for.
Okay,
I have one last question too. I hate to jump ahead.
Oh, no,
But
please.
but are the proposed map, like the map you submitted, are they by voters or just by population?
I did mine
So-
just based off population.
Because-
Required by law to be population.
But the,
We happen to have voter registration data as well.
okay.
A lot of times that's really
Because-
useful with voting rights
And I would
act.
say that, and I give you a reason. why,
Yeah,
And why,
exactly.
and why I think sometimes these don't work well in small communities.
right,
King
because
City,
gerrymandering is very, very popular.
Yes.
I've come from another area where that
King
happens.
King City has that right
We've
now,
seen it
right?
all.
Yeah,
You know that one of the districts in King City at the last two elections, they've had 35 and 39 people vote. So basically, by doing this, it's basically backfired on them,
right,
Oh, yeah.
right? Luis
Right.
filed the suit and I'm like, bro, I know you're angry, but it didn't make any sense because he did it on population, because we have areas in Soledad, the south end have large population. I grew up in that end. My wife grew up on that end of town. But what's happened as the communities have changed, a lot of the illegal people, the people that work in the field, which 90% of the people work in the field are illegal,
Undocumented, yeah.
and they live on the south end of town. So someone's gonna be in a district that has
two voters.
80 voters, 70 voters.
You should
and
look
then-
at my map, because the way I drew it, I did it so it's not like, kind of like, no offense, but the maps that were here, it's just like.
I didn't do, you're not offending me because
Okay.
I didn't draw them.
Okay.
Like,
I saw that they
I
had
will-
the same
Yeah.
thought, so that's why when
I
I drew my
will make
maps.
I will make the changes that you
Okay.
tell me to, or if you ask for new maps, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Right.
Well, because I also
Yeah.
asked for maps to be drawn at the last, maybe it was a council meeting, I don't remember.
Yeah.
Where it, because all the maps are split up by the existing.
Oh, where
council.
you said keep Front Street together
No,
or,
I was against keeping Front Street.
oh, you were,
together.
oh, okay.
Because I feel like the more people that have like the districts, I think everybody should have businesses, you know?
Yeah.
It's hard when all the businesses are on one street.
Oh, so you have one district that's just dominated by business.
Right.
Exactly, yeah.
right.
So then I remember asking also for a map to be drawn where there weren't, the existing council members didn't already have like a map, because I don't think it's fair to draw it that way.
Mhm.
Because it's kind of like, well, like,
I'm gonna
We
make
just-
sure I'm not in the district with you.
yeah,
We're
so
in
then
the
like, let's draw the map so that we all can run again. That was my concern, and
And I've
I
seen
did
that
voice that
a lot.
concern, and I
That's-
didn't see that in the map, so.
Yeah.
Well,
And then you
yes,
have-
so as a member of the public, right, you do not have the authority to request maps, you have the authority to comment and submit them. As an advisory committee, if you all come to some sort of consensus, you can request me to draw maps, and
that
so.
I'm gonna be requesting.
Yeah, absolutely. I will say it is fully legal to consider the current council for this, just for the sheer sake of democracy, to not district people out of the opportunity to run.
Well, they can still run, they'll just be running against each other maybe, but that's. fine.
Well, sometimes what can happen is if you put two, and I'm dealing with this in other places, you have a 2024 member and a 2026 member in the same district, right? Depending on whether you assign that district to have an election in 2024 or 2026, one of those members is going to encounter a 2-year period where there's no seat to run for, right? But we're not there yet. That's the other thing that is worth noting is that each map, and we'll do this for your map as well, we will give you a proposed election sequence based on where the current members fall on that map, okay? So that information is part of, it's the boundary lines, it's the election sequence with the current members, and it's the demographics. So those are like all 3 of the things you can look at.
I also had a question before we got to here that I didn't get to ask, so I'm gonna ask it now. Yes, on here, I know we were talking about not favoring a political party. Do we have that data anywhere?
So in the online tool, sometimes that information pops up. In our templates, we always try to hide it. Sometimes it pops up. If it does, we tell people to turn it off, and I can show you how to turn it off. But no, we don't.
You don't have.
We don't have it. So we use a proprietary mapping software, right? That the public doesn't have access to. And our software doesn't even have the political party stuff. These are nonpartisan offices, right?
So they're nonpartisan offices, but I know that on the thing it says not to do that. So that's why I'm asking the question.
Well, and it's not a dumb question, because literally a map got thrown out in the city of Morgan Hill under an accusation that the map was favoring a political party. So it is something that folks try to do sometimes.
Okay. I'm like a little confused, but I'm sure we'll get there.
This is super complicated.
Yeah.
I want you to know I'm here to hold your hands as an expert in this. I've worked with dozens of jurisdictions all across the state of California. We got you, okay? We got you. But you do need to know what the legal requirements are, right? So first, generally equal population, and then Federal Voting Rights Act. I can't imagine there's much, because really the only significant protected class is the Latino voters, which are in a significant majority. But if there was some map that was in some way diluting the voting power of any protected class, we would red flag that for you and say, you know, this is a concern. Usually in other places, what we're looking for more is if it's possible to draw a majority Latino district, or is it possible to draw 2 majority, right? That sort of thing. Here, every district's gonna be majority Latino, right?
Yeah, they're all gonna be Latino.
Yeah,
But not everybody can vote. That's the issue.
right, exactly. And thank you for bringing that up again, because I wanted to speak to one thing that the state of California does to try to help with that is at least the state does not count prisoners that are currently incarcerated as part of the population for redistricting. For Congress, they do. So there are some congressional districts that are, you know, just prison population in like 5 people. In California, they actually take the prisoners and try to count them at their last known address where they would be voting if they were there. So that's not going to muddy the data, at least. Okay. In 2020, a new law went into effect for cities in California, and it said, when you're drawing district boundaries for council, you have to consider 4 criteria in order of priority. Okay? First, all of your districts should be geographically contiguous to the extent possible. This is pretty easy. It means when you're drawing a council district, draw one whole piece. Don't have disconnected parts, except when your city like Soledad has some disconnected parts, right?
Is that why there's like this random blue terraza and then everything's red?
Because the prison is part of our population. So-
Yes,
So
so
this is the prison?
So people that work at CTF that live on
they
the
actually
grounds.
live
vote in our-
right,
In our
Our
city
district?
election.
Oh, okay.
Have you seen?
Oh, no, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about literally terraza,
oh, no,
that
that's,
top
that's
street, is
the,
that not terraza?
so that's, that is Terasa, that's not, that, what you're talking about
Uh-huh,
is a weird census block.
okay,
And the
okay.
school district, it actually split it, but the geographic, we have to draw district boundaries to follow census blocks. Those
Okay,
come from the US Census Bureau.
okay,
They're updated every 10 years, and that's a really weird one.
okay.
So
Sounds good.
it's weird, but it's not our fault.
Okay,
What I was gonna say is, these non-contiguous parts
Mhm.
of the city that are within the city limits. The only one that has population is this one. These are all 0 population, so. In terms of numbers, it doesn't matter which district you assign them to. All of the maps that NDC has drawn will assign all 4 of those puzzle pieces to one district rather than splitting them up, but you know, you can do whatever you want with them.
is that terraza? Is that what that is? The one that's all the way at that? I'm just curious, the top.
That large block.
Is that Campora? Or what is that? Or is that the prison?
It's right outside the prison, there's like 60 some people that are living outside of the prison. Yeah, and I can show you that on the interactive map.
You go by, you see those mobile homes, just outside the prison, that's where it is.
I don't know if Campora is outside and
Does that have an
Unincorporated
official
thought it-
name, that community, does that have like a?
I don't know what the
neighborhood
name of
name?
that is, so, but I think what they're referring to is when you go to the prison,
Yeah,
you'll see on the backside, there's some modular homes that are prison employees, and that's considered part of their. city
Got
limits.
it.
Yes.
okay,
They don't
okay.
actually vote.
yes, because they could register to
Correct.
be registered to vote here. So that's geographic contiguity, number 1. Number 2, and this is the one that I think is the most subjective and the one that we asked the public to give a lot of input on is, state law actually says we should try to not draw boundaries right through the middle of neighborhoods or communities. So if there's a community that has an identity, you know, maybe it's around a school or a park and, you know, they all think of themselves as neighbors. We want to try to keep them together so that they can be represented by one council member and bring their concerns as a group, right? So that's what that second one is trying to get at. Third is that the boundaries that we draw should be easily identifiable to all residents of the city. The way that we do that is we try to make sure that our boundary lines are following, you know, the major roads, or creeks, or whatever other feature is easily identifiable, right? So ideally, you draw the boundary line down the street and not down the parcel line, you know, between 2 backyards. Fourth, so this is sort of lowest in priority. Once you've made sure you've addressed all the other 3, you want to try to have districts that are compact, and compactness, you can think of it sort of as shape. Because state law says a compact district is one that's not avoiding a nearby area and stretching around to include something farther away. So that's where you get those weird
Where you have
shaped.
that long little
Yeah.
line, and then it circles around somebody's house.
Exactly, exactly. So that you could say, if you had a problem with it, you could say, you know, this district is not very compact.
Okay.
And that's a completely valid thing, and you're required under state law to think about it. So are there questions about these legal requirements? Obviously, anything else you want to consider, with the exception of political party, is pretty much on the table. But these are the ones the boxes we have to tick. And so you'll hear me refer back to these when we talk about different maps, probably. Right now, my team has drawn 3 maps that are named with colors, right? That are 4 district maps, and then 2 5-district maps, which are fruit named. And I think rather than asking you which do you prefer of each set, I think it's useful to say, are there any of these maps that you think it would be worthwhile for me to modify in any way? So keep that in your mind. Or is there a map that you think takes the totally different approach? And what would that look like, right? And maybe if you want to draw it, you can draw it. If you want to tell me to draw it, you can tell me to draw it. So let me show you where you can view maps and make maps online. I did check. You can go to now cityofsoledad.com/district elections. And that's your shortcut to get to that page with all of the information. So here is that page. And it has all the background. And then if you come down to where it says draw a map, it gives you the PDFs of the mapping tool that's on paper. That's just the easy one, right? If you want to draw on top of these lines, all you have are population numbers. You don't have all that other info, but it's quick and easy. If you know someone that wants to do it and doesn't want to spend 2 hours on it, tell them to draw on a paper map and bring it to City Hall to turn it in.
To be fair, I did it on a paper and it took me 2 hours, but I got.
Well, good thing.
Because I'm calculating when I do that. And then I start over because I forgot that I had already done it.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the community is able to submit a map that's digital but also physical.
Yeah, there's 2 options. And the reason for that is just some folks don't have internet, or some folks don't want to.
Great.
You know, my grandmother would not want to do it on the computer.
Can be pencil and paper.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, we've even, colored pencils or whatever, crayons. So the online mapping tool I'm going to show you really quickly. It's very easy. There's also a little 5-minute YouTube video where I'm showing you how to use it, but it's not Soledad. So probably better to show you it with Soledad. Then there's also an interactive page, and this is the page where all the draft maps are in a non-PDF form, right? You have the PDFs in your packet, but if you wanted to look at those a little more closely, and Fernando, yours will get added here as well. You go to this page and you can just click which one you want to see, you check or uncheck, right? So now there's green, maybe we want to look at apple. And then you can zoom in and out. And looks like there's a hole here. I have to check that later. You can also look at the school attendance zones if you want to see maybe where people that are going to this particular elementary school. And then you can also look at the population. And this is by census block. So you can see, let me show you this one up by the prison. So you can see here's 47 people, right? So you can see the population numbers. And remember, these are 2020, They're not 2023.
So Christian, when the council decides whether they want 4 or 5,
Yeah,
and then they come up with a map, are those maps adjustable at any time in the future?
yes.
And what is the process of
Yes,
changing it?
this is a really, really good question. So up until the point that they vote and adopt it, we can tweak it. But once they adopt it, it will be in place until the 2030 census. And afterwards, you are required to revisit your map just to at least see if it's still population balanced. And so that's the opportunity to change it. Now, there is a bill currently in Sacramento that if it passes would allow cities to make changes sooner than that.
Which I think should, because if you look at Soledad and what's happening in our community, I proposed that when I was mayor about building the teacher housing. I don't know why it's taken 4 years. It should have been done 4 years ago. But it looks like they may finally do it. So you might have 50 more voters there, right? The annexation got approved, so you might see a large number of new homes being built in the next 4 to 6 years. So that map is gonna get antiquated really
Really
quick.
fast.
really quick.
Yes, and so here's the advice we give you right now. If you know for sure, oh, the, southeast part of town is about to just explode in population. Our advice is when you're drawing a district in that area, slightly underpopulate that district, right? Within the legally permissible deviation, but give it a little bit lower population than the others, just to give you a little bit of cushioning as those changes come.
And the other question I have, Christian, is I think Fernando's idea about dividing Front Street, in principle, in thought, it's a good thought, but the reality, it's not real.
Yeah.
Because none of the merchants, you don't vote from that address. You work at that address, but you register to vote at your residence, not at the place of the business. So you almost want to know where the merchants live
Oh, yeah.
so that
Yeah.
there's real representation, right? Because the merchants might, of all the businesses here and on Gavilan, but the reality is, what if all those merchants live in that district? So they're still gonna have the influence. I mean, the thought is a good thought, but it's not real because, yeah, Sandy and I, all 5 of us own a business on Front Street and we live in
Yeah,
that block there in a 4-district block. So we're still gonna control what happens on Front Street from our district, even though it has nothing to do with
it's interesting,
Front
right?
Street.
To the extent that people that live in the commercial district, right? 'Cause in a lot of places, we've seen that where downtown never was a neighborhood, but now downtown actually has residents, right? Then we think of it as we want to try to keep those folks together. What you also hear, and I'm just gonna repeat something I've heard from another city is, some city councils want each council member to have a relationship with the business community. And so each of them to have some commercial area within their district.
that
And
was
we
kind
have
of-
been
that
asked
was-
to
that
do
was-
that.
That was
That
what
was
my
something
thought
that,
was.
I wanna actually recommend too, because I believe, if the whole commercial district would be represented by someone that business owners can go and be concerned about issues or think, or,
Yes,
and and they have to speak to someone directly if it's split up in half. I'm not gonna farm on this side of so it has to have its own commercial district. That's what I believe as a business owner.
so there's the business owner perspective, then there's also the candidate perspective, right? If every district or, most of the districts have a piece of the commercial area, when you're running for office, you can go down and say, hey, can I put my sign in your window? Hey, can your business donate to my campaign, right? And part of the nice thing about district elections is they're cheaper to run for office, right?
Correct.
So, I've heard city council members say that before.
Don't we have dual use right now? I mean, I see people living upstairs on Front Street. I see lights on, I see curtains, windows open.
See what the population is.
So-
Yeah, look at all
And
this.
then right above the restaurant, I know that and the liquor store, that there's a whole nother housing development there. And I know majority of the people who live there are farm workers. So,
There is significant population all along Front Street that you can see here.
Yeah, that's.
and then
that's why
my
I
question would be
considered that,
is,
Yeah.
you know,
You can't really tell from looking at the
Right.
rooftops,
How
but
many-
how many of those people are actually voters and are really legally allowed to
Make
vote?
sure we divide the districts.
Right. That would be another question I'd
So
have.
that real voters.
yeah, and that's something
Because what's
that you
happening
can
in
look
city-
at,
that's
just
what-
going
Sorry
down
for it,
to
but I do speak for the state.
citizen
you
voting
just
age
put it
population.
The
That's
reality is, dude,
our
there's-
estimate that
there's
NDC
no
comes up with
voting
of eligible
equality
voters.
So it's the citizen,
39.
Voting age population, that's our estimate of citizens over 18, right? Then you also have from the state of California, the statewide database, you have the voter registration and turnout. And, you know, when you're interested in the registration and turnout is when they're really different than the number of who should be eligible, right?
right?
But usually those are all very similar numbers. So this page you're looking at here is where you compare the different draft maps. I also want to show you quickly before,
Question.
yeah.
During the workshop, were people able to play with this service? So
Yes.
the-
Yes, so we went over both the paper maps and the kit.
How many people were present?
I believe there was only 6 that came, and they were all at the Spanish speaking workshop. The other thing that they did was they also looked at Jesus had large versions of all of the current draft maps printed out.
Were they offered to submit their own map at that time?
Yes, yes.
So this is still up online for people?
Yes,
Now, how's the information getting out to the general public in regards as to getting the paper
I
map?
was worried you disappeared because I was gonna say that's better.
We've been posting it on social media, our newsletter as well. There's been a majority of it, and then of course relying on some of the committee members. I know former committee members, she's doing her own information session. So that's always an option as well. You can do your own information session.
So has that information been shared through the community sites at the schools?
No, so that's something that we can do. We can send it out to Parent Square.
Yeah, because I'm thinking, I mean, at least you'd have a larger representation of the general public versus 6 people. You know, and us,
Absolutely.
because to me that this is very, very important. Having been involved in redistricting in the past, you know, having the public really involved in, and they may not always understand, but at least it was shared. And,
Yeah, and what can happen, Sandy, that's a very good point, because what can happen, one particular candidate of the 5 council members can get all his or her constituents to show up. But the reality is, dude, that's bullshit, because that's just, you got the 6 farm workers to show up, or you got 6 business owners to show up and scream and yell, and the reality is that's a good point, Sandy.
but at
My
least,
neighbor was one of the 6. I don't believe she's a farm worker, but
Yeah.
she stopped me on like, walk around town and stuff. And she was like, hey, like I saw that you're on the district. Can you advocate for another workshop? So I know that the interest is there.
Okay.
it's that balance, I think. I always look at, having been administrator in the past, I always try and look at both sides, right?
Yeah.
I'm looking at, in the best interest of the public and the community, how are we getting that message out to everybody to really understand that this is
Yeah.
very important? And at least they have been informed, and they could say, well, instead of saying, well, I never even knew about it, versus, okay, well, I didn't participate, that's a whole different thing. And then on the side of the city, looking at, are we doing our due diligence to ensure, one, that we're providing information to the community? And then the other one would be to make sure that we're doing our due diligence to protect our own city,
Yeah.
right? Because we also don't want to get hit with a lawsuit by either a candidate or, a group of community members who are very upset because they never heard about this.
Yeah.
So that's how I'm looking at it on both ends.
Yeah, and I mentioned this to Jesus, but if you do decide, if the city council decides they want another workshop, my recommendation is that that one be entirely online and on Zoom. The reason for that is because then the recording, so even I've done this for cities. Usually there's people that show up, but I think one time we had nobody show up to the online workshop. We did the workshop anyway, and we had, the Q&A, we were like, people tend to ask this, right? And the benefit of that is that then that recording, that hour-long recording, people can go back and watch it, even if they couldn't sign on at 6 p.m. on Thursday, right? So my suggestion is if the city does choose to do another workshop, to do it virtual, right?
That's a really good idea.
That
Yeah.
would be, and they'd have to do it in English and Spanish, because if you put it
Which we
down
do,
Front Street
yeah.
or a couple of other
We
social
do
media sites. that's it.
simultaneous translation all the time on Zoom. As long as you have a translator, it works really well. People just check English or Spanish.
And I think the parent square is a good idea, just to like make sure that very clearly, like, this is not the school district one, because that one's already done. And that they know it's for the city. and not for the school
Now, does the
district.
school district have a different?
Yeah, so they have,
Yes.
because there's 5 people on the board, so there's
Right.
5,
Yes,
because it's
So
a
you
different
can
process.
They did
See it. Oh, we just have the attendance.
They have 5 people, the council is 5 too, right?
Well, it's different
I don't
because,
think its boundaries follow the city limits. Which is
Oh,
what's
that's right,
normal.
because they go all the way
Yeah.
down to Metz Road. and
Metz
they go
Road.
afterwards. That's right, it is different.
Yeah, I was gonna say, that's why we have the attendance zones overlaid. I just want to show you really quickly, if you do draw an online map, you do have to create an account on this website. All your account is your email and your password.
Yeah.
And then it auto saves your map. And the way you start drawing your map, right now it's showing population by precinct. That's a bit too big. I want to see it by block. So I have to click block. And then the paintbrush. And just to show you, then the blocks show up. And if I want to assign them to District 1, I literally just point and click or point and drag. And I can assign all of that to District 1 and it automatically starts tallying. In the top left there, the population numbers. And it tells you exactly how many more people you would need to add to get it to the ideal population size. Once you do finish a map on here, and note that there's a 4-district and a 5-district version, you just click share. And it will pop up with a URL for you, and there we go. And then you can just email this URL. And then we're able to download your map. So this is a really great tool. It is really easy.
So on that map, the way to do it, you can actually see the number of registered voters in that district, right?
I think so on that one, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I have a question. So when someone submits a physical copy, does the person need to submit it or can someone else submit it on their behalf?
Someone else can submit it on their behalf. We also tell folks, you can take a picture of it with your cell phone
Okay.
and email it. If you, or, if you don't want to bring it here, if you don't want to.
The address of the.
If they want to be credited for it, but they don't have to, right? They don't have to put their name on it. Now, given that you are an advisory committee member, we are going to identify your map as being from you.
No.
Just as, we always tell city council members, if you draw a map, we're going to say this is so-and-so's map, right? We're not just going to call it public map 5.
So I have another question. So based on her question. So say we have people who just do a map and then they say, oh, can you run copies of that map and I'll turn it in?
That's fine, but it's We
Because
just
then you're gonna
count
have
it
an
once,
influx
yeah.
of the same map, meaning
It's
that
more-
people really
yeah.
weren't looking at the map.
we've had that happen before.
Mm.
And what you kind of want to tell people is just submit a public comment and say, I really like Fernando's map, right? We will assign them all numbers. If there's multiple public maps, it's public map 101, 102, 103.
So I won't have a color on mine.
No, because those are, so folks know that, you know, we're not trying to pass off consultant drawn maps, people who don't live in Soledad as public maps. We want that to be very clear. And, you know, it's always best when someone who lives in that city draws the boundaries. A lot of times we have citizen drawn maps that are adopted by councils.
I think Greenfield did that, right?
I don't know.
I think so.
But a lot of times. And like I said, I didn't draw these maps, so I have no personal attachment to them.
Okay.
But I wanna not monopolize your first meeting, but I do wanna take any other questions that you have. I will be here if you decide to give me any direction, before the night is over. And you do have a big task ahead of you. I would say try to focus. I never saw an advisory committee that felt like they had enough time fully. So try to focus on what you already know and where map boundaries should be. And not get too caught up in trying to look for more public engagement, because you are the council's effort to bring public engagement. So use your own voices, that you're here for a reason. With that,
Kristen, I did want to mention that there is a person who joined via Zoom.
she can ask questions.
Can she? I wasn't sure. I was gonna ask her to ask questions in
Yeah.
the chat, and then if she had comments to make them, but.
Is this a webinar or is this a,
Webinar.
can people ask questions in webinar? Cause I know I couldn't when I was.
We have during the public comment portion, yes, so once, now that your discussion has kind of like come to a close, we're gonna allow for a question.
Okay, good.
Hi, good evening, advisory, and I'm driving home from work right now. I ended my class early. I tried to make it to be there in person. But I did have an important question. This being an advisory board, your role, and this might have already been covered, but I apologize if I didn't, I'm being redundant, but this being an advisory board that's going to recommend a decision for the council, how obliged is the council to take on the recommendations made by this advisory board? Because we've seen it in the past where in our town in particular, it's, things get dismissed despite being recommended.
Thank you for that question, Monica. It's a really good one. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. The answer is legally, the council is not bound in any way to the recommendation of the advisory committee. One of the things that we tell advisory committees is to make sure that you are documenting all of the thoughts and opinions and deliberations, because even if the council does not adopt the map that you recommend, all of your work is still part of the public record, and should be documented for historical purposes.
So like we're being.
So the follow-up question to that is, so this board is going to make, this advisory board is going to make a recommendation depending, because I had a concern that only 5 members would be part of this advisory board. That was the main reason, exactly what you just said, was the main reason why we wanted more people involved in this advisory board. Because I fear, and I'm being blunt and honest, that this will be an extension of what the decisions already made by the city council. So I want to make sure that that these concerns are voiced and that they are in public record. That I as a constituent do have that concern that the board, the council might vote their way anyways, or that this advisory board would be an extension of the will of the council already.
Thank you for those comments, and please encourage anyone who would like to make a public comment to do so either at the next advisory committee meeting or at a future council meeting. That's it for questions? Okay, well, I will turn it back over to the chair and I will thank you all.
So we're not gonna, sorry, I had another question.
Oh, you have another question?
Yeah. So are we like done? Are we gonna talk about how many districts?
The next, I believe
Or-
the next one would be a conversation between all of us.
Yeah,
Oh,
so
okay.
you guys are
Got
in
it.
charge now,
Okay, okay.
but I'm still here if you have
I
questions.
knew, I don't know.
So if you wanna introduce yourself,
Yeah,
you
that'd be
did not
great.
get a chance to introduce
Yeah, I
yourself.
apologize. I misread the email. And so I saw a link and I even thought to myself,
did
that's
too.
weird because we just got the email for the planning commission board. So I thought that was strange and I logged in. I'm like, oh, I better get my behind back over here real fast. So my name is Sandy Fuerte. I am a board member of the planning commission. I've been living here in Soledad now going on 7 years. I have been active in the political realm for many years when I lived in Fresno County. And I believe in giving back to the community. And so I also believe in making sure that we are the voice for the community at large who may not be aware, may not be able to speak, may not, have the confidence to do so and step up. So I am an educator for over 30 plus years. And I do have 2 small businesses that I run. One's a financial services business and one's just a wholesale retail type of stuff in Salinas.
Awesome. That's good.
You want us to introduce ourselves?
Yes, I know Fred and I do not know you guys.
So I can also introduce myself. So my name is Pepita Arroyo. I was born in Salinas, raised full here in Soledad. I attended elementary, middle school, high school here, and then I left to UC Santa Cruz and I came back. I'm currently employed from the Cornell College Foundation. I work with the community, heavily working with the community of Salinas. So hopefully we bring it here in Soledad. So that's what I do.
And then my name is Fernando. We actually are from the same graduating class. And I also went to UC Santa Cruz, but I think different times, right? And then I also attended San Diego State for my master's. I currently also work in education. I'm a graduate admissions advisor at San Jose State. I'm also vice chair of the GPAC. And I also am a board member of a strategic planning committee for San Jose State.
Oh, nice. I used to work at Fresno Pacific. I was born and raised in Salinas too. Went to Fresno State, became a bulldog. And yeah, been involved in a lot of things. Yeah, I'm actually a graduate, 2007 alumni of Hispanos Organized for Political Equality. I don't know if that organization, but they actually work in providing training for women to be more active in their communities. So we get trained in all these areas. It's really cool.
That's cool.
I recommend it. Very good experience.
So the next meeting item is
Oh, can I
develop.
introduce myself?
Of course. If we can have everyone maybe introduce themselves, that would be great.
My name is Megan Hunter. I'm the new city manager for the city of Soledad.
Oh, okay.
So nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Yes, I started on May 15th officially, so.
Congratulations.
Thank you. We appreciate you being here.
Yeah, the 3rd week's the hardest, so be cool.
2 weeks has been pretty hard so far. It's been busy.
Yeah. Oh, I can introduce myself. I'm Shirley Noriega. I'm the one that bothers everybody with emails and phone calls and everything else. I'm deputy city clerk, executive assistant to Megan for every person that has been before and also help with everything with the council. And so I'm here for you. You know, you email me, you have questions. If I don't know the answer, I always find out, I promise. I'm super persistent if you haven't figured that out yet.
That's appreciated.
And at this point,
Jesus Valenzuela, Darlene's assistant. Community engagement manager for the city of Soledad.
And then, would you like to maybe take the floor and introduce yourself again?
Again, or go ahead.
My name is Irvin Pisano Ortiz. I'm a local business owner. I attended all the grammar schools here in Soledad. I'm part of a few organizations here, Rotarian, Soledad. We just finished one of our campaigns for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. And I'm here to help out.
Cool. And I'm Fred Ledesma. I've been here my whole life. Family's been here since 1933, 34. And been kind of politically active in and on and off for 20 years. I was on the council for 10 years, 2 years as a mayor, and then I went to coach baseball for 10 years at the high school. I came back and I was a mayor for 10 years again, but 20 years is enough. It's been a wonderful time. We have a wonderful city. And I think we just have to, I think well, one thing I will say real quick. I think the city has been more progressive than any city in Monterey County. Soledad has had the largest number of Latino electeds. So I was a little kind of expecting it, but a little shocked that Soledad has the most females on the city council. Soledad has had 4 female city managers, including our current city manager. So I think we have done a good job. We have had the Latinos, we were the first one to have a Latino chief of police. Right, so I think we have really done our due diligence as a community, and I would hope that we can continue on, especially with the district voting, to make a fair representation to our community. One thing I would hope that we could do as an advisory committee is somehow make this chasm. I've never seen in my whole life as much contentiousness on the dais as we have today. This is a very contentious council right now, very contentious from the mayor down to all 4 of the council members. And somehow we have to kind of reach out to let people know that this isn't cool. We have to be a better community for that. We have to be a little more courageous with each other. I have never been spoken to like that, like the last 2 years. There was so much contentiousness. So I would hope that our committee here could be civil with each other. And when we make our recommendations, to be courteous and above all, I really believe this, that you have to be kind with people too. Right? If you want to get to people, you can't browbeat people or yell at them or argue with them. You just say, dude, you got a different opinion. I mean,
Absolutely.
right? I mean, and I think the last election showed that the Trumpsters made it seem like it was okay to be ugly with each other. And I think we have to be better than that. So I would hope that all of us could learn to do that as starting here, because the council sure hasn't done that. So I would hope that we could show.
We
that-
can emulate that.
Yeah, exactly. To basically show them, guys, we're not gonna, because I really can tell you guys right now, we're probably not gonna agree. That's why you have 5 members. You have 5 distinct council members that are pretty much have their mind, in my opinion, some of them already have their mind made up what they want to do. Right? I believe some of the council members have their mind made up. I believe the mayor has their mind made up of what they want done. And I think as an advisory committee, I think we need to be able to say, guys, you have to look at the other side to see what they, I argue with my kids about this all the time, and my kids are like, Dad, your dumbass friend John White is a big old Trumpster. Why would you even associate with him? So, dude, because I don't agree with his politics, but he's my friend regardless. You're right. And it's sometimes very difficult. You guys know that. I mean, when some of this, hey, those people shouldn't be here. So I'm talking about being my family, basically. Right? I don't mean you, not Mexicans like you, those other ones. I didn't realize there was other Mexicans. Anyhow, move on.
So thank you for bringing us to here. So we walk with integrity, respect, and again, yeah, we're not all gonna agree with each other. I, for one, welcome disagreements because that's where we spark ideas based on each other. So I, for one, what I believe is that I'm not just speaking for myself. I'm speaking for the community. So it's not about us. We're here, but it's not about us. Each one of us is maybe representing the people that we talk to.
Correct.
And we're bringing that ideas forward. So the next item on the agenda is develop work plan for making districting recommendations to city council. So we can either go around the room, talk about our ideas, or we can maybe just jump up and down. What would we like to do?
I like I'm very scatterbrained, so I prefer the jumping around instead of, because then if you say something, then I want to say something, then I have to wait. I don't know, that's just kind of how my brain works, but.
I believe that, that the chair has to have the Robert's Rules of Order, we have to follow that, and I'm probably the biggest culprit of that. And the reason I don't think that's a great idea of jumping in is because if not, then the meeting will end up being 4-hour meeting. We have to follow Robert's Rule of Order, go to the chair. I know we haven't so far, but we need to kind of adhere to that so that we're recognized by the chair, and the chair gives everyone ample time to say whatever they want to say. Not that I don't want you to say what you want to say, but
Is it possible to get like a copy of that after this meeting? I don't know what.
you can get us a Robert's Rule of Order. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yes, sir.
And then there's a recommendation now, but at the end, that we have a good discussion, find a date for the next meeting that is at least 2 weeks from today.
Got it.
So I think that we can talk about outreach. How can we outreach to the community? I think Sunday, you brought a really good point about Parent Square. That's a really good idea. The additional workshop that's virtual. Also, like one of the suggestions that I have is to have it like past 6 p.m. and maybe on the weekends. Does anyone think of any recommendations moving forward, like what our next steps could be?
As far as bringing the community involved.
I still think that I would like another workshop for the community. And I think that I agree after 6 p.m. if it's on a weekday, on a weekend, just for people to have more time, I guess, to come in. But then there's the other part of, I think, oh my God, I forgot your name. I'm so sorry, but I think you recommended. Oh, I know her. We're neighbors. What's your name again?
Kristen.
Kristen,
Oh,
that's what
I'm
I thought, but I didn't want to be wrong. Kristen recommended that we do it virtually, so I guess timing still should follow maybe when people are available, but since it's recorded, it'll be nice to like, if it's recorded, it'll be nice to put forward so more people can see it.
I think we just have to keep in mind that these next 2 weeks, school's closing up. So we've got graduations coming, Main Street Elementary School. You've got, of course, the high school graduation coming up, and I don't know about, within a 2-week period, if we'll be able to get a large group meeting.
I'm saying at least 2 weeks, thinking to 3 weeks, but
Okay.
at least minimum of 2 weeks apart.
Okay.
Oh, okay,
So it couldn't be like next week?
No.
Okay. got it.
Your next meeting here.
our
Got it.
next meeting.
I think one thing we could do, Madam Chair, is maybe since the city has a Facebook and a website, then maybe take a picture or just put the names of all the people, say if you know any of these people. And you would feel comfortable talking to them, you should let your voice be known. Here's their email. Send them a question and ask them, or just tell them, hey, I'd like to speak to you in regards to. That might be a good way to.
Was the public able to map out like some of the maps that? we already
Yeah,
have?
they can look at the maps and they can make their recommendation about.
There's 2 versions that people can input their opinion, just for the online device.
Which I feel like, the public should have more of a, like, have a, like a, honestly, like, like an input on this.
Definitely.
I do have a question, Madam Chair, through the chair. What was the contention of the lawsuit? Did he feel like there wasn't enough representation in Soledad or? I mean, do you know that? I
I'm
mean,
not aware of that. Why was the lawsuit in place?
why was the lawsuit filed here at the city of Soledad?
Mike, I'll turn that question to you. Why was this lawsuit, how did this lawsuit come forward?
So there was no, are you talking about the letter that we received, the threat of litigation?
Yes.
Correct.
Yeah, so the threat of litigation was basically premised on the fact that the city had not complied, its current voting process did not comply with the Voting Rights Act. And that there was a history of discrimination and so forth and so on. And so, you know, it was a bit of a form letter in that it looks like it mirrored what has been sent to some of the other cities as an incentive to start the districting process, but it didn't have real specific details as to the discrimination and the history of discrimination and exclusion of specific voting blocks and so forth and so on. But that was the allegation, was that this current system of voting that we had in place, which was resulting in elections that did not appoint or vote in fair representation of the true population of the city.
Okay, well, I'm just, my question is because I'm looking at the council names, Cabrera, Velasquez, Corlejo, Jimenez, Chavez. I think, if I'm not mistaken, they're all Mexican American. I also believe that the city attorney is Mexican American, Michael. Welcome to our club, Mike. So that, I mean, that's just my question. I mean, I'm just like, really? We don't have enough Latino representation, or?
So the CVRA is quite different than the Federal Voting Rights Act because it removes two of the tests that the federal law has in order to bring evidence. So in the state of California, all you have to find is evidence of racially polarized voting, which means that if you look at a precinct by its voter registration, race and ethnicity, if it's voting different than a precinct with a different demographic. So you don't have to actually prove that there's an intent to discriminate or a discriminatory outcome. The threshold is very low under this California law to bring a suit. So that's part of why what Mike says is a form letter. There's lawyers that are they're sending the letters everywhere.
Okay. Because I can see like King City, they have one Latino on their council. Still today, even when they went to district voting, they still have one Latino. Gonzalez has one. Right, and 5 Republican. Well, you're not supposed to go by. And so that's why I just kind of scratched my head when I saw it, like,
Yeah,
oh, there's
it's
5
not
Latinos
a
up there.
crazy question, but the bottom line is that the city makes the change, protects it from that demand letter turning into a lawsuit, or any other group at any other point that would want to file a suit on that premise.
And just for the sake of time, I know that we're on the item 6, to develop the work plan, but if you have any more questions,
Sorry.
Kristen will be here.
Sorry, Madam Chair.
Is there a cap where we need to end this meeting?
No, you can go on.
Let's filibuster.
We'll be here till tomorrow. Donuts.
But
I'm sorry about
will the
that.
board say this is the topic or?
Have to stick to this.
Yes.
I'm sorry, this is.
Should
I'm
we
sorry,
talk
Barbie.
about page 10, perhaps? That's where all the maps are going together. One of the questions from Kristen was to really talk about the different approach, something that stands out, both negative or positive. Does anything stand out to anyone here present, both negative or positive, that we can talk about?
I have something that I think Fred kind of touched on with not wanting like only 30 people to show up.
Correct.
And I think the way that all of these maps are drawn, it's just like historically, like the population, some sections, like they're not going to have as much voter turnout based on the population. So I know I keep talking about my map and we don't see it, so it's really hard to explain, but how I drew it a little bit was like trying to break up. I know I said like breaking it up by the businesses on the front street, but it's also like directly above, you know, we got like first through eighth and all that stuff. So kind of dividing those blocks a little bit more. I know that they're like communities that are together, but I feel like if you, instead of drawing them in these like kind of squarish shapes, drawing them more of a vertical line might be a little bit more beneficial. So that's something that kind of stood out to me when I viewed the maps first.
You just make it like a checkerboard. Honestly.
Yeah, right, I wish, right?
Kristen, this is for Kristen. So I noticed here that there's no numbers here, well, except for the yellow one, and then there's numbers on the two. Why is that?
That may just be how they're zoomed in or out,
okay.
but the colors should correspond to the same number for each map.
Oh,
Yeah.
Because for the mango and the apple. it
Oh,
looks
yeah, those
like
are different. Yeah, those are different.
Number two is just its own, however, on green and tan, it's not even on there. Right here, should that also be blue for the green, should in place for the
Looking at it in
two?
color, hold on.
You can borrow mine.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, that's also too yeah, on green and purple, or green and tan, sorry. Yeah, the area on yellow that's two should also. Oh, it's blue, I'm sorry, yeah, it is labeled, the two is labeled, it's the one that's not labeled, it's on green, it's labeled in a non-contiguous area, so it is labeled there. It's just, you can't see it.
so that little
That little area there is
against the blue,
it's blue. Yeah, it's part of the blue district.
so it's two.
Yes, thank you for clarifying that. That's overlaid on top of the blue, apparently.
Okay.
Madam Chair, through the chair, is it possible to get the number of voters, not just population in each one of these maps?
I believe
Yes,
so.
you should have that.
You're able to see that on the website, correct?
You are able to see that on the website. You're gonna, so it's an estimate. You can look at the voter registration from 2020 for each. Or you can look at, and then you can also look at our estimate of eligible voters. So, for instance, if we're looking at yellow, voter registration, you can see the district in yellow with the most voter registration is District 1 with 2,170 voters. And then the one with the fewest is District 3 with 1,754.
Where is that information in the
That's not
packet?
on this packet.
Oh, it's not in the
Oh,
packet.
okay.
Okay, I've been
Yeah,
looking for
I'm
that.
sorry, that's on the website. I do suggest that you all, print those out. It's,
Okay, so through the chair, it's kind of hard to make a
A decision,
recommendation until
yeah.
you can actually
See
sit
that.
down and play with the maps. and
I
say,
believe so too. I think that it would be great to have maybe like printouts of that information. Also, we can like somehow make it available to the public without having to navigate the system. Maybe
yeah,
like,
you can print them. So yeah, some jurisdictions do that. They have them at the public library. They have copies of the maps posted on the wall or something like that. Yeah.
On page 11, kind of hard to see. Is there a population number? Yeah.
Yeah, the maps are kind of small.
yeah.
It would be nice to have the larger map to be able to have, a real discussion and take a look and write in it, like, this is how many people are in this voting area, and because I'm using glasses and I still can barely see the streets on there, so,
Yeah.
that would be
When
nice.
you print it out, it looks like that.
In black and white,
Well, yeah.
grayscale?
Color's better though, right?
Right.
I just did this this in black and white.
Election with.
But then on the other side is all the
Doesn't have to
statistics.
consider,
King City, it says 30 elections.
So on the website, we can get a map with all the stats on the back.
Yep, it's
After that,
cityofsoledad.com/district elections, and all of these are PDFs. They're right on that page there, yeah.
So looking at that, you have to go through like 3 different layers to get to that. Is there any way there could be that moved for public availability where instead of there having to go through 3 deep to get, I mean, even I'm like going, okay, I have to go here, I have to go here, I have to go here to get to that. Is there a possibility to have that available? Like hello screaming at the public who do use the website. And if we do refer the public or you have another meeting, that it will be easier to access versus going, you have to go 3 deep in.
You mean like a banner on the homepage or
Yeah,
something?
a banner they can click on, it'll take it directly there instead of going through the whole process.
We can definitely do
That's
that,
a great
banner
idea.
or a pop-up, so we'll talk to our IT guy.
Okay,
That's a really good idea.
and then for us, we have to print it on our own to be able to see it. The color maps, they're saying, okay. Available.
How will we know if there's another workshop implemented?
Up to you.
Okay, so it's up to the committee itself? Okay, so we vote on that?
Is that correct? This committee can recommend another workshop, and then, so does that have to go to council?
No, the council actually probably has to do that because the workshops cost. And so the council has to authorize an additional expenditure. They can recommend that the council consider another workshop, but I don't think that they have the independent authority to actually call for one.
Did we vote if we should recommend another?
Just to continue discussion, Madam Chair, I believe that it would be prudent on our part as being an advisory committee. And the fact that there were only 6 Spanish-speaking people who came to the first meeting or, the meetings that were originally scheduled. And to, honor the concern of the one constituent, Ms. Monica Andrade, who was, on stating that she felt there was not enough representation at this point in time. I believe it would be prudent on our part to at least recommend to council. So it is on record that the advisory committee recommended another, mapping meeting for the community at large. And that could be the meeting where they record, and it would be, giving the city the opportunity to do due diligence one more time, as well as providing, due diligence for the city itself and making sure that they're providing ample opportunity for community at large. That would be how I look at it. I don't know, I'm putting up for discussion. I know it costs money, however, we're gonna be stuck with this for 6 years.
Agreed.
So I think, things have to kind of be looked at.
Definitely.
Some
It's gonna be 6 years too. We probably should maybe from the planning department get an idea of where the future growth is in Soledad.
Mhm.
Because that is gonna change. I mean, so you might make a recommendation for a smaller district today that in 3 years or 4 years might be the largest district.
That's true.
So if you divide it up, say, well, let's divide it up equally. And then in 4 years, all of a sudden this other, for example, all the new section of town, the majority of the people will register and they will vote.
Mhm.
But Raza here on this side, they're not gonna vote. And they either don't vote, or they're apathetic to vote. Or they just can't vote.
And then we've got the new visit.
I don't even know.
Yeah.
I don't know where I'm at now.
So I
The new housing development too, that will be coming up.
I really would, yeah, that you would, but also too, I would like to see where the people are coming from, because my only concern with that. Is, and I won't say names, but I'm gonna tell you straight up, I already know what's going on here. Someone's getting all the people to show up. I want you to go to the meeting, I want you to complain about this. Right, it's obvious, dude, I mean, council won't say it, but I'll just tell you that that's the reality, so. I want to hear that, I appreciate that, but at the same time, I would look at it with like a raised eyebrow, like, All right, good. I pretty much know who sent you over here. I played that game 100 times, so. Let's also be real about that, right?
Through the chair, I just had a question. Jesus, you attended both of the mapping workshops. How would you feel if you were to try to helm one of those workshops without, or maybe with the guidance of the consultant, but without having the consultants actually attend?
Definitely. And Chris is
I
nodding
mean,
yes.
that may be another option, and that would maybe also allow for the process of the
Yeah,
an
Chris is
additional
serious.
mapping workshop to be expedited. So.
Yeah, have Kristen to give us one for free, Mike. Come on.
Question back to you, Mike. So if we do go that route and I lead that workshop, would that still be subject to vote by the council?
No, because it's not gonna cost us any money if Kristen's just going to basically provide you with some guidance before the meeting attend, and you basically helm the meeting yourself. That's not gonna cost us any additional money, and you could do that without having to get the blessing of the council.
Much more efficient.
That being said, I know that you were.
So you said yes, you've said yes.
Oh.
So I think we have, it doesn't work that way. So Robert's Rule of Order.
Make a motion.
Yeah.
Okay, motion to hold another,
You and as the chair, you don't
You
make the
do it.
motions,
So
you would
one of us
ask if anyone has a motion.
okay.
Sorry.
Does anyone have a motion?
I have a motion on the floor. I would like to motion that we make a recommendation that another. I have to say what it is. Mapping event, mapping meeting, community workshop, there you go. That another community mapping workshop be held prior to this advisory committee making another decision, and to, if possible, to be held by Mr. Valenzuela.
Yeah, it would be that.
Okay,
It would be that if you're amenable to that.
yes.
Does anyone second motion that?
I will second that motion. I know that I don't know. Does that we can then push the 3 weeks, 2 weeks out more, right?
Mhm.
Okay, because I want to like be mindful of what you said about graduation, because I didn't think about that and school being over, so I want to. Yes, second, but with a consideration for like a date that doesn't fall on those dates that are important to people.
Does it pass if we?
All in favor?
All in
Gotta
favor?
vote.
Right.
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Anyone opposed? Awesome.
That's unanimous.
Any abstentions? Any abstentions?
Any abstentions?
So just, I wanted to be clear. So there was, the word recommendation was used, and you don't actually have to recommend. You're requesting the Jesus to hold another mapping workshop between now and the time of your next meeting. And then also, I would assume that you were also directing him to look at an extension of the previously talked about or scheduled. I don't know, Jesus, if you had set on a second meeting date, but to kick it out at least a week to allow you to have the workshop and then allow additional maps to be submitted before this board meets again. Is that correct?
That is correct. So basically, now that the motion has passed, we can look at a date for the workshop, and then if you wish, a date for the second meeting.
Okay, got it. I just want to make sure that we had it all straightened out. Cool.
Hey, Michael, through the chair, this is Fred. Is there a date, timeline that we have to have this complete?
Well, the timeline that everybody's working on is we're way overdue in the completion of this task. And so, the faster we can get it done, the less exposure we have to the potential for somebody bringing an action against the city. So, every week counts. But that being said, I mean, I understand the interest and the concern of the members of this particular committee to make sure that we really go out and try to get the the community involved in this process and so forth. And I can't imagine an additional week is going to cause anybody too much heartburn. It's clear you guys have established an evidentiary basis to show that this city is moving forward with the process. There's no undue delay or unreasonable delay and so forth. That being said, I mean, I just have to repeat what I've said to the council a couple of times. Every week that we, stretch this out, we have more exposure to somebody bringing an action against the city for not meeting the mandate of completing the districting process.
Thank you, Mike. So now, I mean, up to you, Madam Chair, but you can pick a date for the workshop and then after that, pick a date for the second meeting here.
So for the workshop, what does it all sound to us? June 12 to the June 16, any date, or actually also including the 18th. So 12 all the way to the 18th. So that's 2 weeks out. So
For the next meeting?
for the workshop.
What works for you, Art? What was that? The 12th to the 18th, what day works for you?
Any day's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, 12,
Any,
the 14th won't work for me. It's my birthday, guys. Sorry.
Alright.
Gemini.
And I'll be out of town on the 16th.
Okay.
So for me, the 12th, 13th, and the 15th work.
For me, the 15th and the 17th were
And this is for the community workshop.
correct.
So we're supposed to be here for the community workshop?
I don't believe so,
You don't have
right?
to.
But we can be there.
Correct.
Okay.
If there's I think it has to be posted if there's going to be a majority of it. That's a question.
Yeah, so that's correct. The committee members do not have to be present at the workshop. And in fact, you can't have more than 2 of you if for some reason you wanted to be there. Otherwise, we'll have to double notice it as a committee meeting member and that
Okay.
workshop. So
So
the date that you should be looking for is, when Jesus will hold the workshop and then the meeting that will follow after that of the committee.
You all don't mind.
Yeah, I mean, I either way.
Do you want to go?
Yeah,
Do you want to go?
Yeah.
So then I will
We'll
go.
just, if you want to go, then we'll just notice. it.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Can like 3 of us go? And that would be okay?
no, I think it's a
It
Mike
has
said.
to be only 2.
Yeah,
You
like-
can only, through the chair, Mike, I don't know if you want to explain the rules on if more than 2 attend, we have to post meeting.
Yeah, I mean, so basically we can't have more than a quorum, which in a group of 5 is we can't have more than 2 of you attend that meeting unless we agendize it as a meeting. If we have the quorum, there was some thought when we were having these workshops that having members of the committee present at the meeting would be perhaps a disincentive for people to speak up, that they might feel somewhat intimidated and so forth. But is this going to be a virtual meeting?
Yes.
Is that what we're looking at? Yeah, okay, so we don't have that same concern. But if we want to have more than 2 of you participate in that meeting, then we have to notice it as a joint meeting of the and that would be, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, if we're gonna have a virtual one, that's gonna be problematic because we're not gonna be able to hold a virtual meeting of this group. So the maximum number of folks that can attend would be 2.
Another thing I could recommend, just given the complex nature of the presentation, is you could have an English workshop and a Spanish workshop.
And then, for example, 2 can go to English, 2 can go to Spanish if we
Correct.
wanted to. Okay. Well, I think that's very good.
Yeah. So first let's pick a date. So you said the 14th and 16th do not work for you?
That's for our meeting, correct?
That's for the workshop.
That's for the
Workshop.
And then the
So then we
meeting
have to
would
worry
be
about that.
afterwards. So the meeting would be sometime between the 19th to the 23rd, but now we're figuring out the date for the workshop. So we have a line 12 all the way to 18, however, Sandy? Said,
I have a question for
Uh-huh.
Jesus. How long would it take for you to set up the meeting? And how long do you believe, since you've done this before, would it take for you to be able to market the meeting and get it out to the general public?
That should be enough time, especially if I have support from the people here.
Okay,
Yeah,
all right.
so the 14th and 16th are out, correct?
Correct. If I were to attend, but I do not want to cause any problems either, knowing Robert's Rules of Orders and the Brown Act. So it really kind of doesn't matter at this point what day you guys hold it.
Okay,
Yeah, I don't,
So, yeah.
I'm not gonna go to meetings.
Yeah.
I've gone to enough meetings in my life, so.
so we can maybe think about what's best for the community. When can they attend?
I have a recommendation.
Uh-huh.
I think a Saturday works,
Okay,
probably the best for folks.
so 17. So
Hmm,
You don't
do you have
think,
children?
I don't, who does, I don't.
Right now it's baseball season, so everybody's at baseball. The meetings are probably gonna be best in the evening.
Okay.
And probably on a date where there's not too many sports events happening, I would say. Otherwise, you're gonna get very too little.
And I would say, we did receive feedback from the Spanish speaking group that Saturday does not work.
No,
especially now that-
They're still working. It's heavy season.
Okay.
Yeah,
So,
Sunday's the only really, but that's their shopping day and their day of
Yeah.
rest, so they're not
Yes.
gonna come and
That's
spend it at a
church day
meeting
too.
either, yeah. So I would say, based on meetings, I mean, I would recommend looking at the calendar that may be either a Tuesday or a Thursday. Maybe a Tuesday, on a Tuesday, hold the English, on Thursday, hold the Spanish.
Yeah.
And then that way we've got that extra meeting day, right? To be able to, hey, you didn't show up, they're having one in Spanish.
yeah,
So I'm thinking if you did it that way, Tuesday and Thursday, you might get a few more people attending.
Clarification, you're recommending the 13th and the 15th.
yes. Do we agree? Should we?
A time.
Do they have to vote on that, Mike?
Do we need to vote on that?
Do we need to vote?
If all you're doing is, giving direction to set the meetings, you don't need to vote on it. You're fine.
Would this be like at 6 again, 6:30?
Yeah.
Mhm.
6 p.m.
What day was that?
So it's like Tuesday, Thursday
6 p.m.
at 6 p.m.
That's just a workshop.
Oh,
That's
okay.
not our meeting.
That's not our meeting.
Have to attend.
Yeah, you don't have to come.
And Madam Chair, do you have a preference, Spanish first, English second?
Could we do Spanish first? So Spanish on the 13th and then English on the 15th. And then, like, if someone misses the 13th, they can attend on the 15th, even if they're not in English speaking.
That's great. Perfect. So next step is for you to decide on a meeting that works for everybody to come back
Okay,
here.
and now we look at our schedules.
That's when I'm working.
There you go.
What was that?
Oh, so there we go.
Okay. So now it would be the following, or should we do, I think the following would work, actually, yeah.
The 22nd or the 29th. Do we want to give ourselves, would you be able to gather the information after the 15th and get it to us before the 22nd, or would you prefer that extra buffer and we hold it on the 29th so that we can review the maps prior to attending and you have enough time to be able to gather the data and get it to Kristen and get everything to us? Just asking, because you guys are working and I know you guys have other things to do as well, but just trying to keep everybody in mind.
Yeah.
So, Megan, do you think the 22nd would be enough or should we move it to the 29th?
Oh, no, I agree. I think the 29th is a more realistic.
Timeline?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a Thursday, right?
Yes.
Does that work? for everyone?
I would recommend that if it's possible, move it to the 27th. The reason I'm saying that, that's 4th of July weekend,
Oh, people will be
and some
leaving.
people might be leaving early on,
I cannot do a Tuesday. That's my day that I have to be in
or a
person.
Wednesday at 28th.
Wednesday works.
I
for
would,
me.
I would try to stay away just because of the holiday it's gonna be.
Is
That's a
there
good point.
a council meeting on that Wednesday?
No, we wouldn't have a council meeting, on the 28th.
Okay.
But I'd have to confirm on our.
What does everyone look,
calendar.
the 28th look like it might be okay for you?
As well.
Fernando, you too? Yeah,
Okay.
you too, yeah, I think let's try to make the 28th.
That's a Friday?
You may wanna
So
kind of
Wednesday.
give the public
June
until
20th.
the Friday, the 23rd to submit public maps.
Okay.
So that I have time to process those and get them to you. Which I can do over that weekend.
Cool, perfect.
Just to recap, we'll have a workshop. 2 workshops, the English, the Spanish speaking one is on Tuesday, the 13th, June 13th. The English speaking one is gonna be held on Thursday, June 15th. Held by Jesus. And then our next follow-up meeting will be held on June 28th. At 6 o'clock.
And the maps are due. Is
June
June
20
23rd enough time for you?
Which I do, we just talked about item 7, so.
Okay, that's. And the next item on the agenda is adjournment. Is that?
Mike, do we need to open it up for public comment at this point?
Yes.
Madam Chair?
We're opening up for the public comment. Do we open it up to the virtual first? First, we are opening up to virtual public comment. If you have a comment now, please let us know.
Okay, Monica, you can unmute.
Hi, I just wanted to point out because I heard one of the chair people mention that, there was only, based on race that the city can be sued. But in reality, in California, there's 11 protected classes. So moving towards district elections helps us protect us, the city from a little bit more from somebody bringing a suit, a lawsuit from anybody, alleging one of these 11 classes has been violated. So that's just my opinion right there. Just wanted to put it out that there's more than one way of discrimination. There's medical, there's gender, there's marital status. There's so many other, there's 11 classes, protected classes in California.
Monica. I'll see no other hands.
Anybody here, public comment? Okay. So it's meeting adjourned.
We can just ask for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
I make the motion to adjourn.
A second.
Thank you, everyone.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you.
All right, great. Thank you, folks. That was good.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a pleasure being.